Hello, everyone. Welcome to the cleanest hour in podcasting. That's what I'm calling it. I'm going to call it the cleanest hour in podcasting, the Housekeepers Podcast. This is a podcast for those of you who may be new tuning in. And first I say, how dare you be a newbie? No, welcome. This podcast is for housekeeping managers by housekeeping managers. This is a place where we get to meet and greet and share war stories with housekeeping managers from every industry all over the world. It is the best podcast. You don't want to go anywhere else. And today, of course, I have an amazing guest, Finis. Did I say it again right? Did I say it right?
You got it.
Finis Jones. I don't know what your parents were thinking, but I love it. Which Jones is Finis Jones?
Oh, you know what? I can't take the credit like that. My parents, it's a family name. It's my dad's name, it's my grandfather's name. It's actually biblical. It comes from the Bible.
What do you mean? Where in the Bible is Finis? Like, what's the reference?
So it's actually derived from the ancient city Finis. So if you see Finis or Phineas, as they were teaching the Bible, folks were having trouble pronouncing, Phineas, so they ended up on Finis. So you'll see it as, Phinea. You might even see it with two N's, Finnis. So it's a name that's been passed down from previous generations.
I like it. I like it a lot. And so I know now that you're working at UC Davis,
Yes.
and I wanted to say that you're the housekeeping extraordinaire, but your actual title is what? You're the custodial director, right? Or director
Correct.
of, I have it here.
Director of Custodial Services for
facilities
management. So at Davis, we actually have two custodial departments, one that oversees student housing and the other ones that oversee the classroom spaces and labs and stuff like that. And that's
In which do you oversee?
I oversee the classrooms and office spaces and research spaces. So.
I looked it up. There's like 39,000 students at that school. So
it's massive.
I can't even imagine that kind of turnover right now because everybody's leaving right now, right? Like right now as they're moving out of their dorms because of the semester's over, right?
Well, actually, we operate on a quarter system, so they go a little bit later into the year.
Oh, good.
About mid-June is when they turn over. So.
But that turnover has got to be pandemonium.
It is exciting and not in a good way.
before we get too far into that, I would love to know just where it started. Like where you have a bachelor's degree, which is pretty fantastic.
Sure.
So it looks like you got your associate's degree first.
Well, yeah. So I started off in college, a college basketball player. I'm 6'6", 250. So I don't know if you can tell by the screen.
You look the same size as me, so we're gonna make you 6 feet today.
So relatively big guy. I played basketball in college, so I started off at a little community, or not a community college, a little liberal arts college in San Diego. Got homesick, so I'm born and raised in Stockton, California. So that's why I came back for a year. Trained up and went back out there in the field and, finished up at Cal State East Bay in Hayward and majored in marketing and entrepreneurship. That was back in 2009. And so, not a great time for entrepreneurship in 2009. That was in the heart of like the economic collapse. So
yeah, that's when, if there's anything I'm going to remember from that time, it's the idea. It just drives me insane, but it's the whole idea of all the dealerships that went under. Like all those small mom and pop dealerships were told they were no longer allowed to sell cars.
Right.
And in the town that I was living in, I lived in Northfield, Vermont at the time. We had this family-owned dealership that had been there for 30 years. And the government literally came in and said, you can't sell cars anymore. Like,
terrible. It's tough. It's tough time. And so, young kid right out of college, got pie in the sky, dreams of, I want to open up my own gym.
Nice.
And that's not actually feasible because there's not venture capital out there that's willing to risk something on something like that. So I just started applying and, ended up at a company called Healthcare Services Group. I think you're familiar with them.
Yeah, my alma mater. Sure. I think we all grew up at Healthcare Services Groups, right?
And that's where I started. And that's, that's kind of where I fell in love with the industry. And I remember.
So wait. So Healthcare Services Group, for those who don't know, it's a company that the largest management company that serves long-term care for housekeeping, laundry, and they took on dietary some time ago. Yep. But they have one of the best onboarding programs for office staff. I don't know if you know this, and maybe you do know this, but if you get an office job, because it's a big corporation.
Yes, it is.
If you get an office job working for Healthcare Services Group, they make you go clean in a nursing home as part of the onboarding process. Yep. I think that is the best thing I have ever heard in my life. Talk about keeping it grounded, keeping you knowing, you want everybody from your CFO all the way down to your actual housekeeper. You want them all to know what business we're in. We're in the business of cleaning. I love that. So smart.
At the time, I hated it, but now I 100% agree with it, right? It's the foundation of what I do. I still think about those times when I was in nursing homes, cleaning toilets, folding linen, stripping and refinishing floors. Like, I don't think I could be able to do my job effectively without having that knowledge, despite, being educated. Like, you need that real life experience.
Yeah. And I agree. And I did. So do you guys do something? I'm curious now, just because you're at UC Davis now, what is that? Is there any kind of a crossover training between, and I know you're going to say no, and I'm hoping you're going to say yes. Do the professors get in there with a mop and
No, not so much these days. No, not so much. But I think there is a newfound respect, right? I know when we were kind of in the middle of the coronavirus and we were trying to figure out a bunch of things and how we disinfect. And I tell this story that makes kind of people laugh. But I was on a conference call one time and there were like 8 doctors and a chemical engineer and then me. And I was like, I feel a little outclassed here, right? I feel like I'm a little out of my element, but, folks were asking about our procedures and our processes and want to know how we do things. And it was critically important to what they did. And
of course.
That made me feel good. So no, they're not mopping floors, but they are coming to me a lot more than what they used to.
I love that. That is that. And, I mean, I'll probably get, some backlash for it, but I got to tell you, there are some things that the coronavirus has done really well for us in this industry. And,
yes.
and it's just to put a positive spin on things, highlighting the importance of housekeeping is not a bad thing. And that's what I think that every time we have any kind of an outbreak, right? Like the H1N1, the swine flu, the whatever, every time, there's always that, like, what we should look at housekeeping a little more. How do you do that? How often are you going in there?
Right.
What's that chemical you're using?
Right. No, this has actually presented some really unique opportunities to grow our department, to really put our people out in the forefront and really get some really good recognition for our guys. So I'm really happy for our team and what they've been able to accomplish during this, pretty difficult time.
No question. So HCSG, you're there for 4 years, I think?
Yeah, about 5 years.
Where did you start? What did you start doing?
I was a management trainee, right?
Yeah.
So going through that system and
basically meaning you're doing the housekeeping, covering shifts were short.
Yep. Covering on the weekends, covering, every time somebody's out. But again, that experience, I wouldn't trade it now.
I know. At the time, though.
At the time, not the best. Not the best. Like, what am I doing here right now?
I can't tell you how many times I've had that same thought, and then how many times training new managers that I've had this conversation where, like, I didn't sign up to be a housekeeper. I signed up to be a manager, and I'd be like, "Do time, brother, do time."
Well, I'm out here on the West Coast, and we had some young guys along with us, so that kind of made it kind of seem a little bit more palatable for me. It's like, all right, this young guy who's educated doing it, I guess I could do it,
Yeah.
So that made it good, and I still keep in touch with those guys. Those are great guys, and so I stayed there for about 5 years. Moved my way up to about a senior district manager.
What was the size building that you were in? You were in a nursing home or in a CCRC?
I started off, my first account was about a 100-bed account up in Auburn, California. Shout out to those guys out there. They're still there. I love them. That was my first account.
100 bed,
Yeah, not the most diverse place either. So I'm completely out of my element, and everybody's like, "Man, who's this basketball player cleaning the nursing home?" Right now. So, you have to learn different skills, different people skills, and how to relate to people. So.
No question. I was just reminded that when you talk to a baby is different than how you talk to your mom. You know what I mean? Like it's
1,000%.
You change your voice, you change your vernacular, you change your expressions. You either speak up or you speak down. You know what I mean? There's a lot to it. And so recognizing who you're talking to and learning how to approach different people is not bad. It's a good thing.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. No, you got to know your audience for sure.
So you go from long-term care, that's your first hoorah into housekeeping, long-term care. Where do you go next?
Then I end up in the public K-12. So, I'm burning the midnight oil at Healthcare Services Group because, they run you, they put you through it all. And so, I'm like, I gotta have something a little change of pace. My family is growing. My wife, and I just got married, and we have our son, and so I end up running the K-12 in my hometown. So it's about 62 school sites, and 200 plus custodians, but a completely different element. And those guys, they reminded me every time that this isn't a nursing home, like this is a school. But my motto has always been, well, why can't it be clean? Just because it's a school doesn't mean that it should be any less clean. And so I did that for about 3 years and really made some really good friends, had some really good relationships out there. And we really improved the look, at least from my perspective. I talked to any of those guys.
So,
that guy ran us through it.
K through 12 were you guys cleaning during the day? You're doing it all at night. So it was a night job, right?
No, we actually had both. We have, like head custodians who kind of man like the cafeteria and restrooms and stuff like that, and handle spills all throughout the day. And then the evening guys would do the majority of the cleaning, like in the classrooms and offices and stuff like that. So a different dynamic for sure.
Yeah.
In nursing homes.
I worked between my 8th grade and 9th grade year. So that I was 15. Going into my freshman year, they had a summer work program.
Yep. Yeah.
And they had like all kinds of things. You could go work in a mechanic. You could go work at a store. Not what I don't know how or why in God's name. I'm like, you can go be a custodian at the high school. I was like, I remember saying to my mom, I totally rationalized it because she was like, you really want to do that? Like you want to go and be a custodian at the high school? And I rationalized it. I said, well, this way I'll get to know the lay of the land because I've never been to the high school and I'm going there for my freshman year. And so I'll go. And I had a great summer. It's just a summer hanging out with a bunch of guys stripping and waxing floors. I learned how to strip and wax floors, learned how to buff, learned that students chew too much gum. Like that's
for sure.
We had the first thing I did when I got there, they put me on gum duty. They gave me a scraper in a little bag, and they're like, turn over all the chairs and all the desks and scrape all the gum. And I was like, this is easy. No, there's like 8 pieces per desk. So I was like, what?
It's amazing that, supposedly gum's not allowed, right? So how did it get on the desk if it's not allowed? I don't understand.
I was apparently the only one who didn't know that.
Right.
You know what's funny about that? I was in a nursing home. It wasn't that long ago, like 3 years ago or so. And we were going to strip and wax a dining room. And so, when you strip and wax a dining room, you're going to take all the tables out. And when you get to the door, so you carry them over to the door, and then you have to turn them aside. And we were all stunned on the amount of gum underneath the table at a nursing home. And it took a couple of minutes because we're like, the elderly are chewing gum. They keep doing it.
Right.
And of course, it's it's the kids who are visiting.
Yeah, or seeing it. Maybe nurse staff.
Exactly. So everywhere I am at now, my only thing is I think everywhere there's a public table, there's gum underneath it. Just peace and love for those who don't know.
Likely.
You're in Starbucks sitting at a table. I bet there's gum under that table. I'm just
for
saying.
Sure, 100%.
Yeah, but I liked it. I liked it a lot. And you did it for a few years.
Yeah, well, about 3 years there, managing those guys and, really trying to give them structure. And that was one thing that we were really lacking is we didn't have much structure, definitely the Wild Wild West there. Once school closes up, you got, 100 plus custodians all across the city doing their own thing. And so trying to bring that stabilizing, person for them was a challenge, but we got there.
Yeah. And everything has to be turned over. Every desk has to be cleaned. And there's drawings on them. There's carvings. You have to assess whether or not the desk is even usable anymore.
Yeah. No, and first day of school is the biggest deal ever, right? Mm-hmm. So everything, during that summer, I mean, it's everybody go and clean up the place and change out all the lights and make sure that the desks are stable and all the chairs. So,
every locker has to be cleaned. Every locker has to be opened and cleaned.
Everything. And you talk about some stuff in some nursing homes, and you can find some stuff.
I was just going to say, by the way, at the school I worked in, they had a scrapbook of stuff that they found in lockers. And I mean,
I can only imagine.
it was eye-opening. I'm like, people take pictures of that? And They leave them in their locker?
Right. This kid has one of these. How did he get one of these? Yep. Those are definitely interesting summers.
That's super fun. All right, so you do that.
Yep.
And then from where do you go from there?
So then I end up here.
So you stayed right in education then.
Yep. But higher ed is it's a little different than K-12. I think you're dealing with a different population and different expectation. And so I make the move to UC Davis because, again, I'm just trying to grow the family and,
nice.
And it seemed like a bigger opportunity. So, definitely excited to be here at Davis.
That's awesome. It looks, like they do the virtual tour now. So you can go and you can click and you can kind of go through some of their student centers in the engineering department. Like I said, I was stalking you a little bit. I was trying to prepare.
I appreciate it. That.
I'm preparing for an ad hoc conversation. Anyway,
I'm flattered. I'm totally flattered.
No, it looks both like the one thing that's really great about spaces like that is they're wide open, right? Mm-hmm. And wide open spaces are really great. The other thing is that when it gets into the classrooms, like they have a big engineering department over there. Totally. It just makes me, I'm just so super curious, like, and how do you clean the engineering department? Like, what is the policy? Do you guys get in those rooms? I can't imagine they would let you in there to clean. Maybe, I don't know.
They let us in, but we do very little, honestly.
Yeah, very little.
Because of the chemistry that's going on in there, we really can't do anything with like countertops and things like that. We mostly get in, do some sweeping and mopping of the floors, empty the trash, and when available, we might do some high dusting. But even that is kind of touch and go. We don't want to mess up anybody's research, so I don't want to be responsible for anybody's research being destroyed. So very little.
In long-term care, we don't touch people's desks. So we'll go into an office and we'll do the same thing. We'll do the high dusting, we'll pull the trash, and we'll do some floor care, but we never touch a desk. I think we've made like this blanket agreement. And it's kind of like, if you want your desk cleaned off, like you want us to wipe down your desk, make sure it's empty. So everything's put in the drawers, that kind of, if there's anything out of the drawers because of HIPAA and all that stuff, there's no touch. We don't care if there's spilled coffee on it. We're not touching. That's unreasonable. Well, I guess we'd get spilled coffee, but
And unfortunately, I mean, the custodian is always the first one to kind of be the one to get blamed when something comes up missing, and that's unfortunate too.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate that's a knee jerk, and at the same time, I've caught a bunch of housekeeper stealing, so I don't know where I sit.
There is good reason for it at times. It's not always the case.
No question. I'm just saying, I struggle with that sometimes. I struggle with innocent until proven guilty. Wait, it was the housekeeper?
No, it is true. There are those folks out there, but I always kind of recoil a little bit where it's like, ooh, like you think that the custodian needs like your piece of gum out of your desk or something like that. Like, come on, our custodians are better than that. They can get their own gum.
I had When I think back over the years, and I've been working in housekeeping for more than 20 years. So I've worked in a ton of it. Like I said, I worked in a school. I started working cleaning condos at a ski resort, and I've worked in hotels and hospitals, and I've done a lot of different environments where I was responsible for cleaning one area or another. And when I just kind of look back at all the theft and the breakage, and sometimes it is crazy to think what people steal. And then on the other side, it's crazy of sometimes, like I had one lady, a laundry worker. She got fired by the administrator of this nursing home because she was short 10 cents. So they have her on video. They see her at the soda machine, and she's trying to get a soda, and she doesn't have enough money. She's counting out her change, putting it in the machine. Right. And there's a maintenance cart behind her just out in the hallway. And so she goes to the maintenance cart. The maintenance cart had like a bunch of pennies and a dime. She took the dime, put it in the machine, got the soda, and they fired her over it.
Oh, ouch. Ouch.
I said, I don't know if that's stealing. I don't know if that's technically,
right.
You know.
Well, I think you gotta weigh every situation, differently. Like, is this a quality employee? Is the person have a history of doing something like that? And does that raise to the level of somebody losing their job? I would hate to see like a 30-year employee lose their job over 10 cents.
Yeah, no, she wasn't. She was a young girl. She was maybe 19, 20 years old, but still, it's. Yeah. I did not think that anybody anybody would have given her that 10 cents. Like in her taking the 10 cents is, to me, it's like going up for seconds without permission. I mean, the food's there. It's not that big of a deal. Right. So I don't know. And then I've had situations where I've had to be quite the detective. Like I legit had to be. I caught a lady, another laundry aide. Let's not say this all about laundry. Laundry aide.
You're on a slippery slope now.
I know. I caught another laundry aide stealing. She stole a lockbox from a resident's room that had the lockbox. They had just gone through and given every resident their own personal lockbox with the key, and just to keep your valuables in. And sure enough, one comes up missing, and we have it on tape where we see the laundry worker going into the room, the laundry worker and the nurse on the unit, the only two people going in the room. The nurse goes in, comes out, and she clearly has nothing. The laundry worker goes in, she comes out with laundry, which is the opposite, clean laundry, which is the opposite of what you're doing. You're normally bringing clean laundry into the resident room. You're not taking clean laundry out of a laundry room. Yeah. So that's my first little wait. Why would you be carrying clean laundry out of the laundry? And then there's another camera outside the laundry room. And so now, and I don't know how I feel about cameras, because there's somebody right now. It's 22 minutes after 4 on the East Coast. I know it's a little earlier where you are.
Sure.
But there is somebody right now who has been all day watching videotape of something that happened yesterday. They're trying to catch, and you just lose your life just watching video. And I've been there, and it just like, I don't know why we have videotape. Anyway, so now I'm fast forwarding through video because I see her go into the laundry with presumably the lockbox. And then I see her leaving, and she leaves with nothing. And so then I'm just like, all right, it's got to be left in the laundry room.
Sure.
And so I go in the laundry room and I start tearing it apart. And underneath a bunch of dirty clothes, that are just piled high, is that stupid lockbox. I was like, you gunky. Here we go.
You took the bait. Unfortunately, you took the bait.
So yeah, sometimes it's housekeepers.
Sometimes no, 100%. Sometimes it is. I just, like I said, sometimes our custodians, our housekeepers are, the lower end of like the salary, but our folks have a lot of pride, and they have and they're proud of what they do. And so, when you look down on them or assume that they steal, I've had some folks get really, really offended.
Agreed.
Because it's like, hey. you know, I'm an upstanding person. I'm trying to make a buck like everybody else. I don't need to steal anybody's things.
What is do you have any, just going on this subject, because I'm curious about it, how do you stop stealing? I mean, how do you prevent stealing? You work in schools where presumably we have kids with $1,000 phones and $2,000 computers. And I mean,
right.
UC Davis is not a cheap school. So I imagine the kids that are there got money just falling out of their pockets as they try to pull their pants up. My image, not yours.
there are some well-off students here. We look in the parking lot. We're like, yeah, that person's pretty well off. I don't know if you can prevent it. Yeah, I don't know if you can stop it per se. I think if a person has got their mind made up and they want to steal, they're going to try to find out whatever avenue that they are. I think our biggest thing is more, you know, I want you to value this job. You know, I want you to value being a part of UC Davis and into a way that you wouldn't want to shatter our reputation. You wouldn't want to shatter your reputation as a custodian in our department, and that we've afforded you with enough opportunities that you wouldn't want to steal, right? Or you wouldn't want to let, you know, your fellow custodian down. But at the end of the day, you know, folks are going to do what they want to do. And so, you know, I just hope that we've instilled enough of that into people that, you know, they do the right thing.
You tell me if this makes any sense to you, because I love your approach. I think you're absolutely right. I think from a team point of view, you're absolutely right. I think sometimes, though, nobody intends to go steal. Not nobody. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people.
Right.
But, you know, you see somebody, you walk into a resident room and you have no money and you don't have a lunch today, and there's a $5 bill tucked in a drawer and you just saw it, and you think to yourself, nobody even knows it's here. Nobody sees me. I mean, there's no camera in the resident room. And I think that's what happens more often than not. Like, it's just kind of like an opportunity steal.
Yeah.
So nobody intended to go in to steal, but then it just kind of presents itself.
I hear you. Yeah.
And so
those scenarios, those are really coming out of good judgment, though. I mean, that comes down to a person, right? I would like to think that each one of my custodians would see that opportunity and pass it over. But
yeah, agreed.
Person, that $5 could be what they needed, right? You don't know everybody's situation. So again, I just try to hope that good values, that they know that they could come to us. You know, we got break rooms. Like, hey, you know, you need a bite to eat, come ask somebody. You know, we're having potlucks around this place all the time. You know, people are looking for an excuse to have a potluck around this place. So, you know, food.
Jim doesn't have lunch money. Potluck, let's go.
Hey, you know, every Friday around this place, I see a potluck going on, and I'm like, "What's the occasion?" It's like, "It's Friday." So, you know, so I would hope that people would do the right thing.
I like that a lot. So I started, you tell me if I'm off base here, because maybe I am, who knows, but I started in my interview process. So I would be hiring a new housekeeper. I just interview them, get them through the paperwork. And I say, hey, by the way, I can't imagine that you'd be the type of person who steals at all, but it does happen here. And most of the time when it happens, it's because people just don't think anybody notices. Everybody who steals gets caught. And the reason they get caught is because everybody sees us going in and out of resident rooms. There's cameras everywhere. So please don't do it. And I don't know that it stopped us from stealing, us in the housekeeping department, but I'll tell you that our accusations went way down. Like, people stopped accusing us of things missing.
Yeah.
For me, I was kind of like, you know what, I might have solved the issue, because if I saw something that I wanted and didn't think anybody was around, I might be inclined to take it. If I see something that I want and I have been warned that there's cameras and people watching me all the time, I'm less inclined.
I 100% agree. And I think what you're doing is something similar to what we're trying to do, is establish a culture. It's just like, hey, right from the gate, like, this is what we're about, and we don't tolerate this. And again, it's not going to prevent somebody who wants to steal, but you know, right? Like, you know, if you steal something in our department, you're letting us all down, right? Yeah. And same thing for you. It's like, hey, this is what you have as that's around you. So, you know, please don't do it, because likely you will be caught.
No question. Hey, let's talk a little operation stuff, because I'm super curious. And it's so cool that you run. So you're running all the main, or all the common space, right? You're running the lab space, the conference space, I'm imagining all the front entrances, cafeterias, all that stuff, right?
Yep.
When are you doing it similar to a K through 12 where you have a single or a very limited staff on call during the day and then you're doing the bulk of your cleaning at night, or?
Yeah. So when I got here, we had very limited staff during the daytime. And so we have 10 million cleanable square feet around the campus. And we only had 20 people during the daytime trying to manage that with 39,000 students roaming the campus. So we were running around like chickens with our heads cut off, throughout the day. And so we've tried to make a concerted point to move some of our staff to the daytime to act more as porters, to resolve some of those like spills and issues that happen throughout the day. And they just sit all day. So then when our staff was coming in the evening, they'd have, they'd be running around trying to get everything cleaned up just to have it get back messed up again. And so we've been shifting about probably like 20% of our staff. So we're about 60 now folks on our day shift that just do portering, that just kind of keep the place looking good. And then even in the evening, those folks that do like our classrooms, offices, they will do that type of work.
And your 60, you went from 20 to 60?
Correct.
All right, there's no way we're approving that kind of a budget next time. Just so we know,
no. So
streamline that a little bit better.
No. So what we did was we moved some of that stuff.
My HCSG brain just exploded. Just so you know.
No.
I see a big chart with OBS getting bigger. I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh man, I almost had a heart attack. OBS report.
OBS over budget.
I haven't had one of those in a long time.
No.
Oh man, OBS. That takes me way back. But no, what we did is we took some of that staff from our swing and our overnight shift and shifted some of the responsibilities to the day shift. So, we didn't add any additional staff. Although, a lot of people think that, because they see all these new people here and they're like, oh, Custodial must have got a bigger budget. It's like, no, we just took those resources of folks that you never saw working in the evening and moved them to the daytime.
Yeah, that's smart. So you must have like don't let me say must have. I'm curious. Do you have, like when I'm mapping out a new job routine, when I'm trying to figure out how to get somebody from point A to point B on a consistent basis, are you able to do that in your environment? Are you able to say, hey, you're punching in at 7 and by 7:30 you need to be over here, and then right after lunch, or you're going to be in the breakfast, dining room until this, and then is that kind of how you're structuring everything?
Yeah, the unique thing about our industry is that, despite whatever industry we're working in, it can still be somewhat formulaic. And so, we try to put together work schedules that, it's the same thing pretty much every day. And despite the chaos around us, we're still kind of doing the exact same things every single day. So that's what we've been working to here. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Because I think it from a management point of view, selfishly, I'm going to look at it from a management point of view. I want to be able to know where to, because I can't help. I can't support. I can't tend to if I don't know where you are, right? So, and me knowing where you are first begins with me having an expectation of where you should be. If I don't have that, I'm completely, especially when you're talking about 10 million square feet of cleaning surfaces. I mean, that's a lot. Hey, let me ask you about floor care. Okay. Yeah, my brain's on fire here. What about floor care? You must have every type of flooring.
Yeah. Terrazzo, VCT, carpet, concrete. We've got it. We've got it all here.
You've got it all. And your favorite to work with?
Me, because I was trained on VCT. That's my favorite.
Yeah, it is mine too. It's the most repairable. Looks the best. Yeah.
Well, I would actually say that the polished concrete, I think, looks the best now. I've grown to like the look of the polished concrete.
I just watched a video. I love LinkedIn, by the way.
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome.
If you work in housekeeping, and I don't care what field, like if you're a housekeeper, a floor tech, or the housekeeping manager, or VP of operations, get yourself a LinkedIn account and do me a solid. Post your cleaning videos. I am addicted. I love them. I just saw this company, and I can't think of what they're called right this second, but they did this whole demonstration about cleaning concrete and putting some finish down on it. It was gorgeous.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Done right. I mean, it's actually pretty easy to maintain, and really easy to keep up and get it started. The hard part is getting it started, though. Ripping that carpet up, getting all that glue and adhesive off of the floor.
Oh my God, that's how you were starting?
Our maintenance folks were helping us with some of that, but getting down to that part and then refinishing the floor. I mean, the end result, it makes it worth it. It definitely makes it worth it.
I worked in a nursing home that it was granite floors.
Okay.
And I remember when I got there, I was the district manager and I just got promoted to a district manager with like 7 or 8 nursing homes. And so, I'm learning. I went from 1 nursing home or 2 to all of a sudden I'm going to being introduced to, hey, this is the new district manager of these homes. You know how it goes.
I've been there.
and you're both, a little bit of intimidated and very excited because you just want to see every part of the home. And you're like, oh, and how did you clean that? And I see a little mess here. And, you're just super critical. And I remember I went in and there's these granite floors and I'm like, I've never worked with granite floors before.
Yeah.
I had never. And so I'm trying to do research on how to strip them and how to maintain them. And I remember the manager, he's like, we just strip and wax it like VTC. I'm like, you do? He's like, yeah, it's the same thing. It is.
No,
just legit. They were just putting down regular wax. It looked great. They were buffing it like I was like, okay.
Well, the Terrazzo, my first experience with Terrazzo is what threw me for a loop because it's porous, even though it's kind of like a hard surface. And so I'm like, so how do we get the finish? Like, how do we? Let me get a rep in here. Help me out here. How do we do this? So, but no, I still enjoy the floor care. There's still nothing that makes me more happy than seeing a clean floor. When I walk into a building. So
I say it all the time. We are a visual company, a visual industry. The cleaning industry is all about how it looks. Forget about germs for a minute, okay? Because I started my housekeeping career where we never once talked about germs. We worked at a ski resort. We never once talked about, we had 409, we had Lysol, we had toilet bowl cleaner, but nobody would have cared 1 iota if you never took them out of the bag. They didn't care as long as it looked good.
Yeah.
So it was always just about presentation. Does it look good? Does it look good? Does it look good? And I remember here, this condo is like 8 condos in a group, like they're connected together and they're all connected by this long hallway. And of course, ski resorts, they're walking down the hall in the winter. They're bringing the snow and the salt and the slush with them down this carpeted hallway. And of course, they're all young kids who are partying. So it smells like beer and alcohol and a little bit of vomit. And I remember that could be a beer name, right? A band name: beer, alcohol, and vomit. Who doesn't go see that thing? No. And I remember the lead housekeeper. Which reminds me, I want to talk to you about that. The lead housekeeper coming and saying, "Listen, we have to do a better job on these hallways." And we're all like young kids. We're all like, "Oh, screw the hallways. They're just going to get ruined anyway." Yeah. And he's like, we are in the business of making it look good. And if your floors don't look good, and your floors are 80% of what everybody sees, nobody's seeing the dust in the corners.
Right.
Very little people are seeing that. Everybody's seeing your floor care. And I brought that into nursing homes. And there are some nursing homes today who think a clean toilet will sell a building better than clean floors. They're wrong. They're not even close to being accurate.
Right.
And
so it won't get you in the door. I tell our guys all the time, like, put yourself in this parent's, situation, spending $30,000 a year, and they're touring the campus, and that place it looks like a haunted house because it's got cobwebs everywhere.
That's right.
That doesn't send the right message to those parents and to those students.
It's true, but
I needs everything.
I would say if they notice how bad the floors look, that's our fault. And if they notice the cobwebs in the corner, that's the admission person's fault because they're not keeping their attention. They shouldn't be looking at corners. How dare they, right?
I'm a tall guy, so my eyes instantly go up every time.
I'm a floor guy. I look down up. I never start. It doesn't matter where I go to Walmart, Target, the bank. I look at the floor first, always.
Hey, do you track down the guy at Target trying to figure out how he keeps his floor so shiny? I'm like,
$1,000,000%.
Who's this guy? Who is this
I
guy?
want to talk to the floor tech who works at Target. You put whoever has the contact with the guy who does the floors at Target. I want to talk to them.
I drive my wife nuts with that. She's like, "Will you just stop?" I'm like, look at this
amazing.
floor.
They do a great job. You know, that reminds me. This hour is flying by too fast for me. That reminds me that. So I was in Walt Disney World a couple of times, but the last time I was there, have you been to Disneyland? Disneyland's in
Disneyland, yeah.
I'm sure it's the same way.
Yep.
Where what I first noticed was by the food, like they had like the food court kind of area, there had to be, and I don't want to exaggerate, 100 garbage cans.
Yeah.
100. And they were spaced out about every 15 feet. And they're all red. So they almost look like, and some of them had like Disney characters, like they're legit using them for advertising. Yep. But they're like every 15 feet down this huge row of just garbage cans. And, you know, working in housekeeping, I noticed. And I'm like, at first I was kind of like, are they storing them here? Like it's such a weird, but
there's so many of them, right?
There's so many of them. But if you look around, if you pay attention, there's zero garbage on the floor. There's thousands and thousands of customers coming through that door, going through there, eating, thousands of them, and there wasn't a single wrapper on the ground. How is that possible? And so I have to pull up, you know, because that's me, right? I work in housekeeping. I'm curious about everything housekeeping. I pull one of the aides. I say, hey, I'm one of the guys working there. I said, I can't believe this place is so clean. And he says two things. He says, number one, the reason that we have so many garbage cans out is because we found if we put garbage cans in a convenient location, customers will pick up after themselves.
Yeah.
They will use them. If we don't, they don't have a place to put their garbage, they're only going to take a few steps with it in their hand before they're going to go like, I don't know what to do with it. I'm not going to hold it.
Yep.
So you take away that question for them. So, I mean, we could do another podcast just on that concept, I think.
Yes.
Garbage cans. And then the second thing is, he said that all of us, what did he call himself? He called himself like a cast member. He said all the cast members are first and foremost told that we're all the janitorial staff. And so we have to pick up if we see, we're not allowed to walk by trash. And I was like, oh, I love Walt Disney World.
You love it even more now.
I love it even more. So you post on LinkedIn, and if anybody doesn't follow you, they really should. Finis Jones on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
You posted you got a lot of engagement on it too. Let me see here. It's called What We Accomplished in 2020. And you just come up with a list of things because, you know, truth be told, it's super easy, as you know, to look back at 2020 with a negative concept, right? You're just kind of like, oh, hey, what a tough year. And woe is me this and woe is me that. Right. In true leadership fashion, you're like, nope. I'm going to highlight everything that we did well, all of our wins in 2020. Yes. So mad respect for that. So great. But there's a couple of things on here that I'm super curious about. Wrote for recruitment. You said you converted 2 senior custodians. Wait a minute. Hold on.
Okay.
You converted 20 custodians to senior custodians. And then you converted 2 senior custodians to lead custodians.
Yep.
Wait. So tell me how that works. What's a custodian versus a senior custodian versus a lead custodian?
Sure. So a custodian in our department is essentially somebody who does all the cleaning, but doesn't operate equipment. And so that's kind of the distinction that they've made here at Davis is that, you know, anybody who, you know, operates the floor care, the carpet machines, any of that more technical side, they get paid at a different rate. And so there's a training program that we put our folks through that will allow them to qualify to be converted to like a senior custodian. And then from a senior custodian to a lead, you actually have to apply an interview for it. But we created this program or this career path for our custodians so that they can start to view themselves not just in a job every single day, but we want them to have a career with UC Davis. And so we go from a custodian to a senior to a lead, and then the lead custodian actually prepares them to become a supervisor. So we actually give them opportunities to, I steal the healthcare model, putting them in opportunities to be in supervision, because our guys are very hands-on. We can sit them in front of a book or in front of a screen and have them read over all the leadership and give them all my great quotes every single day. But that ain't gonna have good leadership, right? They got to kind of see it in action and be in different scenarios. So we promoted a few guys to lead custodian, and actually that's been a great program for us. I think about half of our 12 since I've been here, we've got about 6 people who are former lead custodians who are now supervisors for us, and it's been a great program for us.
That is amazing. I love that you guys at UC Davis are dedicated on, you have that low barrier entry point, which generally that's where I live, right? It's the low barrier. I'm working with people with their first time jobs, right? I mean, they haven't worked before, or, they, at the very least, they come unskilled for the most part into a housekeeping field. And then you have the ability to keep going. So you start there. We're going to teach you all the things you need to know on this level. We have opportunities for the next level. Once you get that, you can go to this next level and just keep going on and on. You know how many people I've met over the years who are the CEO of the bank, and their first job in high school was cleaning the bank they're the CEO at. I mean, if that doesn't, make you believe in God, I don't know what does.
Well, I'm always a firm believer you got to find out what motivates people, right? And so, in our industry, there are people who just want to be a custodian, and that's all they want to do for the next 30 years. And
I love them. I love them.
I want you to be as happy as possible. Let me know what you need.
I love them.
There's some people that come in and they're like, I want more for myself. I want to be.
I love them too.
You know what I mean? And we need those guys too. And so we just try to give everybody a little bit of something, right? Give them what they're looking for so that they perform at a high level for Davis.
I love that. I just heard of a nursing home. I can't think of what nursing home it is, but they started a lead. I think they called it like a lead CNA or something. So a CNA is a certified nursing assistant.
Yep.
In nursing homes, in hospitals too. And generally speaking, the way that nursing happens is the lowest entry level to nursing is a CNA. So you get it's like a couple-week course, you get your certified nursing assistant, and then you can go to school for 2 years and you can become an LPN, right? Or a licensed practicing nurse. And then you can go to school for a couple more years, you become an RN. But that's kind of like the educational route of a nurse. And they added a third or fourth option in there in between the CNA and the LPN, where they were just offering promotional opportunities for people who had some. So now they're kind of like a lead CNA and promoting people kind of like you're doing it based on skill, but also based on experience and dedication. And I just think it's so smart. Anytime you can, quite frankly, a lot of times what we're looking for is an excuse as an employer, or as a manager. We're looking for an excuse to give you a little more, to bump you up a little more. But it's a give and take. You got to give a little more so I can get a little more, that kind of thing. And so if you have that gap too far, CNA to LPN, that's a huge gap. That's a 2-year schooling commitment while you're working 40, 50 hours. It's a large gap,
Right. Well, I will say this, in my first 6 months here, we had to hire a bunch of supervisors, and, our custodians are giving us a lot of help, because they're like, how come you guys never hire from within? You guys never hire from within. Right. And so we selected somebody, we threw them a bone. We said, all right, we're going to take the custodian and make him a supervisor. And that guy, he was just in over his head. I mean, he was floating upstream every single day. And what that illustrated is that we've got to have something in place to develop our folks, so that they're ready to go to the next step. There's a lot of them that want to, right? But you got to be ready to. Like, we want to have people have success. And so, working with our HR team and, labor relations, working with upper management, they've been very supportive of getting this role into our department. And, again, it's been huge, because, having somebody just because sometimes you're the best custodian doesn't necessarily make you the best manager, right? Or best supervisor, right?
7 out of 10, brother. 7 out of 10 brand new managers fail in the first 90 days. 7 out of 10. And I hear that a lot. I've heard it my entire career. Just because she was a good housekeeper, it doesn't mean she's going to make a good manager. And I always say the same thing. What should I do? I mean, I have no choice. I look for my best workers. Could you imagine promoting the worst person?
Right. We're not going to do that.
He'd be really great, that guy. He's not here today because he called out again, but he'd be so great if you put him in charge. No way. No, right. You lose all your credibility in a heartbeat, So we have no choice, which is the best thing, because that's the reward for working hard. That's the reward, right? I mean, you're getting recognized. I think it's super great. But you're right. It's not the same muscle. It's not. You know what I liken it to? I liken it to going from 8th grade to 9th grade. In 8th grade, I knew everybody. I knew everything. I knew where everything was. I knew all the teachers. They knew me. That was kind of more of a curse and a blessing. I mean, I remember when the 6th graders came in, they would get a little tour, and they would get a tour by the 8th graders. And I remember being part of the 8th grade tour group. Why? Yeah. Because I knew everything, because I'd been there so long, because I had already been around. I went to 9th grade, brother, and the only person I knew was the custodian, and he didn't start till 3. So all day I was without him.
I got another analogy for you then.
I was completely lost. I didn't know where anything was. I didn't know where I was supposed to be going. In 8th grade, I was mastering math. In 9th grade, I was back at ABC. I couldn't, what?
Right. No, you're out of your element, right? You're in somebody else's world. So I got another analogy that I use with our group a lot of time. And I say, a custodian is like riding a bike, right? When you're riding that bike and you're on your path, you know exactly where you're going. You're in control. You can make quick decisions. You become a supervisor, you're kind of like, driving a minivan, right? You got 7 people that you're bringing along with you. And if you turn wrong, you're going to slam somebody's head into the window. You're going to stop too hard. You're going to have people, going all over the place, right? And then I tell them, for me, this is I'm running a cruise ship here, right? Cruise ships don't turn on a dime, right? I got to plan it out. I got to get everybody on the same page and say, hey, we're all going this direction, right? Same like riding a bike. And so, and I think our guys are starting to caught on to that. I'm not on my bike anymore. I got some people with me.
I say anytime there's an analogy where somebody's head can smash into a window. Get some.
Gotta make it memorable, right? You gotta make it memorable.
All right. So the other thing I wanted to talk about with this form, because you go through recruitment, reorganization, your operations, all this stuff. I mean, there's got to be 25, 30 points that you highlighted that you guys benefited from or were able to do in 2020, which is amazing. But you have one on here in operations. You said 2 things. One, you said you improved customer satisfaction scores, which I'm super curious about. So let's just start there for a second. What are they? What kind of a survey is it? Is it just the students getting the survey, or how is it? How are you rated? How are you judged there?
Yeah, so back in 2018, the university started participating in a customer, I guess it's more of a building occupant type survey across the campus. It goes out to about 20,000 some odd people that work on the campus, and so it's really staff based. It's really based on
it's not student based.
Not necessarily student based. This is more staff based, and so I do think some students student employees may participate in this, but for the most part, it's mostly staff based. So you really kind of judged on professors and faculty and all that stuff. And so back in 2018, we started out, what was called marginal, right? And I remember talking to my boss about this and just saying, we're in a space here where, everybody's kind of content, right? I see things because I'm the professional. I see, things that can be done and be improved, but I could not do anything and everybody would be okay with it because everybody's just kind of around here. I just kind of accepted that it's going to be marginal. I can make it better, but I got to break it. right? I gotta kind of, take everybody out of their comfort zone to like make it better. And, God bless my boss. He was supportive. He was like, no, we're UC Davis. We want to be the best. So do what you got to do. And so a big part of breaking it was moving some of those people to day shift and putting people on day shift, because what we weren't getting was that human interaction, right? People thought of custodial services just like this thing that happens at night. I never see them, right? They just kind of do their thing. And what we've seen since we put more people on day shift is that human interaction, when they have to, have a toilet plunge or they need, more toilet paper, instead of having to pick up a phone, talk to somebody, then wait 15 minutes for us to deploy somebody over there, they can just find that custodian in their building and say, hey, man, can you go take care of such and such for us real quick? That'd be great. And now there's a relationship there. So when they're responding to the survey, they're not talking about custodial services. They're talking about Finis, who works in my building every single day, right? And so it's been a neat little Jedi mind trick that we've done with people, and just having the same amount of people, but just making them more present on campus and developing those relationships.
That is so interesting. It's so great. We learned that in hospitals. So in hospitals, we get judged on what they call HCAP scores.
Yep.
And we were never getting any credit, housekeeping. We were never getting any credit from patients, because patients rarely saw us.
Yeah.
Right. And so we struggled with even figuring out how to let them know we were there, because, we would clean their patient room during the day, but they're off getting surgery, or they're in getting x-rays, or they're getting rehab. The length of stay in a hospital is so small. At the time I was there, the average length of stay was 3 days. I think it's even less than that now. I mean, they're so quick getting them into a rehab center if they're going to be home or rehab. Those are your two choices. You're not staying here,
Right.
So I think it's even more of a challenge for housekeepers to get credit. And eventually we tried all this stuff, but eventually, what worked? We added our name to the whiteboard. So every resident or every patient room had a whiteboard, and it would have, like save your urine, like whatever the instructions are from the doctor's name, maybe the nurse's name.
Right.
And we started adding the housekeeper's name to it. And to your point, now it's no longer how was housekeeping. It was, how was Kim?
Yeah, no, it's amazing the contrast that you can see. Like whenever we had something negative come on the report, it would say custodial service is this, they suck or whatever. But then whenever something good, it would say, Mary and such and such. Bob in this building, he's great. Don't ever get rid of that guy. It never said custodial services was great. It was always that guy. He was the one that was making it happen for the entire building.
A million.
So it's so stark. It is so stark. If I could show it to you, you would be like, it's night and day.
You know what? There's awesomeness in that statement. There really is. I've been working in management, training managers for a long time, and I have hook, line, and sinker bought into the notion that you take all the blame as the person in charge, and you give all the credit to people who aren't in charge. That's just the way it goes. But with peace and love, I'm going to tell you, sometimes it just drives me crazy how I had housekeeping managers this past year do unbelievable cancel vacation, not take days off, clean the COVID unit because their staff were scared, so they did it themselves.
Right.
And then, there's an award for, 30 days without calling out, and we're throwing a pizza party for the staff who didn't call out for 30 days. Yeah. And the manager who has never called out, who's been working 7 days a week for 3 months, who's cleaning COVID areas because nobody else would do it, has canceled his vacation, hasn't seen his kid in 8 years. You know what I mean? Like, if he even thinks of going, hey, can I get a slice of that pizza? They're like, what did you do to deserve it?
Yeah. Our management team has been amazing. I got 4, managers who report to me, and I help lay out the plan, but their execution has been great. And we didn't give them enough credit. We did give it to a lot of the employees and the frontline supervisors, but our management team, without those guys working behind the scenes, organizing people, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
I'm super happy to hear you say that, because I am not one bit anti-employee. I would never be anywhere. Sure. I couldn't be anywhere without employees. But I have mad love and respect for managers. People who say, I'll put me in charge, I'll be responsible, I'll take the lead.
Yep.
Come on. There's
You need them.
Especially in our field. Come on.
Yeah,
You say you're being in charge. You're saying you're willing to be in charge of crap. You're willing to be in charge of the messiest, dirtiest, the raunchiest. God, I love you for that.
100%. 100%.
Mad respect. I appreciate people who show up on time for 30 days. Don't not. I'm not down.
We need it all, right? We need it all. We need it all.
Let me move on to the other question I had. And by the way, about that customer satisfaction, when I first saw it, I thought must be the customers, and I was thinking customers as students.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell would they say? I couldn't even imagine a student filling out the survey. They'd be like, I ain't fine. You're lucky I took the math test, You
get a free T-shirt if you take the survey.
Yeah. But the idea that you're treating the customer is actually the teachers, the professors, the office staff, that makes it so much more sense. And it's so much better because they're the professionals.
Yes.
I wouldn't go out and ask my kids how they thought we were doing with keeping the house clean, because they would say like, well, it could be. You don't even get it out of their head. Like, I'm going to give you a mop.
Right. No, I think we've tried to identify our customers as the people that we see every day, people that we interact with every day. The students obviously very important to what we do, but the students they're going to come and go. Every 4 years we're getting new students. Those professors, they're tenured. They're going to be here the whole time. The deans, they're here, right? And so if we're not keeping those guys happy,
no question. I'm just sharing that I didn't even think of it that way until you said it, and I was like, whoa, that's so much better. Totally makes more sense. So then the other thing that you take, your little brag tag, and I'm going to let you go after this one. Here's another little brag tag I'm super want to hear about, is your employee engagement scores went up. How are you measuring employee engagement? First of all, well, back up. How do you even define employee engagement? How do you guys define it?
I don't know if we necessarily define it, but Davis, we love to do surveys here at Davis. We want this.
All right. So if I keep saying yes, will you stop making me fill out these surveys?
Right. Please. No, there's a survey. It's called the Glint survey. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a survey that just asks a bunch of questions. It's probably like any other surveys out there, and it's been the metric that we've been using here for the past couple of years. And really, what it just asks people is, how well do you feel like you're being heard, right? How well do you feel like your feedback being taken serious, And our survey went up significantly. Actually, the campus-wide survey was about 78% as far as like favorability. So they measured on favorability, and ours was 90.
Nice.
So that was like one of the tops in the entire campus. And really, what it comes down to is that I try my best to listen to everybody's feedback, good or bad, and genuinely look for, okay, is there something in there that I can do differently, right? Like they came in here yelling and screaming, and sometimes people get focused on the yelling and screaming, but I'm like, well, what made them come in here and yell and scream at me, right? Like, what is the thing that's driving them? And I would like to say that we've solved a lot of people's issues. Like one of the big issues was, folks wanting to, move up within the organization. We've done a lot of that, over the past, 4 or 5 years since I've been here. A lot of it was staffing. We've addressed some of our staffing issues as well. So it's really just a measure of how well is management and supervisors listening.
It's so. I'm no longer surprised. You're like, if you were looking for work, I'd hire you. I don't know what kind of a compliment that is, but there you go.
Listen, I love your content, man. I work for you.
Nice. So I would always, anytime I see the word engage, I would cross it out and write the word listen.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you feel? Are you feeling listened to? That's how I would define engagement
Absolutely.
too. And so we're right on the same page. And then you ever, and you're going to say, I hope you don't say no. You're going to break my heart if you say no. Have you ever heard of a guy named Jocko Willink?
I have not. I'm sorry.
All right, here we go.
Sorry.
We have some work to do, Jocko. So there's this guy called named Jocko Willink, retired Navy SEAL. He owns a company called Echelon Front, and he does management consulting. And he does a podcast called Jocko Podcast, which you're just fair warning. Once you start listening, you're going to be addicted. And it's not a bad thing.
Okay.
But he says something very similar to what you just said. He said, the question is, how do you stop somebody who's always complaining, always nagging, always negative? And he says, listen to them. Like, it sounds so ridiculous when you put it out in the ether. What do you mean, listen to them? He's like, I would legit go right up with a pad and paper, and I'd be like, talk to me. What? He goes, because I guarantee whatever they're complaining about, others have the same complaint. They're just being the mouthpiece, number one. Number two, the validity of their complaint is usually based on their misunderstanding and probably yours as well. So you take the time to listen and write it down and then get back to them.
Right.
You will increase your engagement scores just like you just said. That's why I was like, you must have listened to. How else could you have learned that if you didn't listen to Jocko?
Getting my head beat in too many times is how I've learned it. But one thing I found, and this is probably because my faith is that there is people mean well, right? I don't think that people come in intentionally like, I want to yell at Finis today, or I want to make his job, harder. They're coming in because they're passionate about it. Like, somebody comes and talks to me, tracks me down to my office, and they're upset. There's something has happened. Like, there have been many, many things that have happened to lead them to that point. And I just want to hear them out. And I think too many times as managers or leaderships, we put the onus on the employee or the subordinate to come in professionally, right? But I'm not the one out there sweeping and mopping the floors every day. I'm not the one breaking my back, taking out the trash every day. So somebody's frustrated, like, who am I to tell you, like, hey, go back out there and come in a professional way? Just come in, bring it to me. I'm a big boy. I've been doing this a long time. Give me your honest feedback. And then let me sift through all the emotion and say, okay, you just want the day shift to do their part on day shift. I got that. I can fix that for you. Not a problem. Right.
Finis, let me jump on board there. I want the day shift to do with this.
But it's usually pretty simple. It's usually just like, but we get caught up in the emotion,
Yeah, no question.
And that's something that we got to work on.
Well, this has been really fun, and I really appreciate that you said yes when I asked if you would come on the show and talk about UC Davis. And are you guys hiring? You must be hiring.
We are hiring like crazy. It's been a blessing. We're really growing right now. So if you know people
on your list that you hired 40 part-time custodians last year.
Yeah, and counting. We probably hired another 30 or 40 this year. So we recently took over athletics. So now we're managing all the athletics and performance events. And so we need part-time staff to be able to manage that stuff. So if you know anybody, send them our way.
Anybody listening, you're really interested in going to work, you can look close near the campus of UC Davis.
Come on down.
Look up Finis Jones. Okay, say, hey, listen, I saw Finis Jones on the Housekeepers Podcast, and I want to work for him. So whatever I got to do. You take volunteers too, right? I'll work for.
We prefer volunteers. Save our budget.
Of course. No, this has been really great. I really appreciate you taking the time, and everybody should follow you, and you should post more cleaning stuff because I want to see more stuff.
I thank you, and I'm a big fan, and I need to like more and share more of your stuff. I mean, I really am a huge fan of what you
thanks.
do. I really think you do a great job.
I appreciate that. I have a friend who just was talking about what does a like mean or what a share means. And he says that when he goes through his Facebook page, and he's talking about his personal Facebook page, but it doesn't matter. He goes, when I go through my personal Facebook page and all my friends and high school friends and family are posting whatever, he goes, it doesn't even matter what it is. A birthday card they got, a meme they found, a saying they thought was fun. He goes, I simply put a like. I just like. He goes, you might think I'm a maniac, but all I did was give every one of my friends and family a little notification that, hey, I saw them today. Hey, that's nice seeing you today. Yeah. And I thought once he said that, I'm like, I'm going to be the like king. I mean, I am. I every time I see somebody I know did something, I'm always like. I'm here. I'm seeing you. I think it's so important.
I got to give up more. I got to give more likes. I got to give up more likes on LinkedIn. I agree. I think we got to do a better job of acknowledging each other, especially us out in the cleaning industry.
Cleaning 1,000,000%. You know why? Because nobody else is going to acknowledge us. I'm taking it into my own hands.
Lift each other up. We got to lift each other up.
That's right. All right. That's it. Housekeepers Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in. And thank you, Finis, really for coming on. It's been really, really great. Actually, we're going to get off. You're going to stay on with me for a minute, Finis, and we'll end this live presentation. All right. That's it. Cleanest hour in podcasting is over. You can go back to being dirty.